Tonight we're going to hear about how Mark Guckel got so lost into crack cocaine and then how he found his way out through plant medicines. But before we do, watch this.
He pulled out these rocks. From the first hit that I took, my life immediately changed. I felt as though I was destined to be a person that struggled for my entire life. When my father died, I inherited over $2 million. 2 years locked in my bathroom, hit after hit, dying. I had a crazy idea. I would pack all my stuff up and I would go to South America. I would find a shaman and I would work with some of the psychedelics. And what happened was something a lot different. There are two choices. You either recover or you die. You either recover or you die. For about 2 weeks, I held on. Just on the edge with my fingers until I was able to get to ibogaine. And then through the help of psychedelics, my life changed.
All right. Let's not waste any time. Let's get Mark in here. What's going on, Mark?
Not too much. How are you, friend?
I'm doing well. There's so many things that we could start on. But before we do, is there anything you'd like to say before we jump in?
No. Well, thank you for allowing me to be here tonight. I know that some of what I may share may be a little bit controversial, may be new to some other people, may just be something that fascinates other people. But what I'd like to reflect is that I hope that everything that I share somehow inspires people, motivates people, gives people hope, or perhaps helps them to reframe psychedelics from just recreational drugs into very helpful medicines.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Okay, so let's jump in then. In the intro there, Donna just freaked out. There was a fly.
Sorry, it was pestering me.
Yeah. So, anyways, in the intro, you mentioned that you inherited $2 million from your father. Is that an indicator that you grew up around a lot of money?
The household that I came up in was upper middle class.
Mm-hmm.
But what I can say is, while there was a lot of money available, my dad always tried to save. While I was growing up, I ended up wearing clothes from Sears a lot. I'd wear like tough skin jeans. So there was kind of this weird feeling that you knew that there was money there, but in a lot of cases it wasn't being spent.
Was there drinking at home? Was there substance use at home growing up?
Yeah, good question. My mom was in recovery all the way up until she had passed. She got sober in 1981, and I remember that really well. She had 2 brothers and a sister, and one of her brothers ended up dying a very untimely death due to his own substance use. And I remember that right after that, she began to drink excessively, right? And I was so young that I didn't understand what was going on, but I would often go to the bathroom and she'd be locked in there. And when I would clean the bathroom, I would find coffee cups. They would have a little bit of brandy in the bottom. I would sniff them, but I never was able to connect that. Where I began to, understand not only that she had a problem, but that there was this underlying problem in my maternal side of the family was when she started to go to meetings, when she got sober herself.
Mm-hmm. At that age, did you notice a difference? Like, did you notice that there was a problem beyond the brandy and the coffee cups?
No, it wasn't anything that I could see. There wasn't any sort of, like a bad check or a car accident or being neglectful to me. There was nothing like that. Although, when she got sober, she confided things to me. Like, for instance, I would come home from school and every afternoon, I would watch The Guiding Light with her. She asked me to do that every afternoon, and she would peel grapefruits, and we'd both eat half of the grapefruit. And what I didn't realize was, even as a young kid, the reason why she did that was she was very anxious before my dad got home, and she needed somebody to be there to help her not drink. So,
Okay.
there were a lot of things that I wasn't aware that was something much deeper going on for her. I just had the pleasure of seeing her sober, and
Yeah.
also to go to a lot of meetings with her. I mean, I grew up in the rooms, in the
Yeah.
rooms of AA.
Yeah, my son's been to a pile of meetings. Not so much lately, but like earlier on, yeah, everybody knew my son. He'd be sitting there with the phone and the great big headset because we couldn't find him one small enough.
It's
So,
so important,
yeah.
whether you realize it or not, I look back at it now, and it was a gift.
hmm
That was a gift to me. So
hmm
I don't know if you see it, but please realize you're giving your son a gift by taking him along, by including him.
hmm
You know,
So, how old were you the first time you got loaded then?
yeah, you know, um, it was late. It was late on. Out of respect for my mom, she began working in a treatment center,
hmm
and she did all of their intake. So, out of
hmm
respect to her, I never had alcohol in the house,
hmm
and I drank late with friends. I never really liked it. I never enjoyed the taste of alcohol. When I did drink, I drank to get drunk. And usually I got so excessively drunk that there was a lot of throwing up and falling down and all the uncomfortability that goes along with it. So my recollections of drinking were never that pleasant.
hmm
But what did get me was cannabis, marijuana.
hmm
As a youngster, I dealt with social anxiety, sometimes feeling like I didn't fit in. And one of the best ways to get to know people sometimes is by smoking a joint with them. And so
Yeah.
that was something that went on during my high school years. But my relationship with cannabis was never healthy.
hmm
Even from the beginning, when I would run out, I would do things to get more.
Yeah.
That may be just as simple as buying a bag and taking more out than I should have, giving somebody the smaller half, or even taking $20 out of my dad's desk.
hmm
So I mean, the relationship from the beginning, it wasn't good, and I was trying to feel better about myself and
hmm
medicate some deeper issues that I had going on.
Yeah. So, at what point did you start to realize that your substance use was a problem? Like when you're talking about, I mean, this must have been really early on with the cannabis and stuff because clearly it escalated quite a bit. Did you start to realize that there was a problem, um, like early on?
Well, not with the cannabis. Like
Yeah.
I didn't see it. In a way, I kind of, I think cannabis is socially acceptable, at least fairly so, maybe a little bit less than. But to
hmm
me, it was like the same thing as liquor. So I never really saw it being a bad, like a problem,
hmm
even though I did some deceptive things because it never really interfered with my life. But where things got bad was when several years later, 3 years later, when I picked up crack cocaine,
hmm
and you know,
Tell,
uh,
tell
I go ahead.
I'm always curious about that. Now, I mean, you just mentioned that you pretty much grew up in the rooms, right? You went to a pile of meetings, and you sort of you skirted your substance use around your mom in an effort to, I guess, maybe to save her. Would that be accurate?
Well, to be respectful to her,
Be
I don't think
respectful,
she would have
right?
ever picked up. But like if she's a counselor, like
Yeah,
how would it feel to her if she found, which she did one time, she found a
yeah,
case of beer in my room? Like
yeah.
how does that make somebody feel?
Right. So, but where
And I
I'm
never
going,
wanted.
where I'm going with this though is, what was it like the first time crack cocaine got presented to you? Were you like, oh, I don't know if I should do this, or were you like, yeah, hand it over? Like, what was that like for you?
Yeah, didn't know, didn't understand. There was a lot of media hype. I mean, I remember crack being even featured on the cover of Newsweek, but
hmm
I could never comprehend the problem until I had it myself.
hmm
And I was working at a Burger King while I was in high school. I was a breakfast manager, and I used to give a bunch of guys a ride home every night. And so we had a new employee. He had just relocated to the area from Detroit. And, that was one of their, like, their things that they did was to smoke primos. And so it was never presented as crack. It was presented as smoking a primo. And what I didn't realize was that would entail getting usually a huge rock of crack and breaking it up and rolling it in there. And, the feeling was incredibly different. I mean, it would make your lips numb and you would feel this rush. And along with that, there was another feeling. If there were a couple people that were smoking, how long is it going to take to get back to me? So, I mean, that was when I started to see that. But that very much like the cannabis, right? Like it was because of my substance use, I was able to rationalize lowering my morals to myself, right? Just typical criminal thinking stuff. So I was able to excuse myself for doing things to get money to get crack. And that was really when the issue became not only apparent to me, but to my family as well.
So what did your parents say when they started to realize that you were having some challenges?
Well, my dad came into my room, and what I had done the night before was I had pawned some stuff. We had like this, God, it was like a loft above the living room. And I went up into the loft and got the television, and I went and pawned it so that I could get crack. And just by chance, he went up there the next morning, noticed it was gone, came into my room and said, "Where's the TV?" And when I told him, he hit me in the face. He broke my nose.
You were honest
And
with him, like right off the hop?
well, what am I supposed to say? I
don't
mean,
know.
I'm the
I
only
pawned it for
one
crack.
that
Like that's
lives
what you
there.
said?
Yeah, well, yeah. Well, I didn't say for crack, but I told him that I pawned it. And I think that by then, I was showing a lot of signs that went along with the crack use. I had played for the football team for a while, and I was no longer doing that. I wasn't able to keep jobs. I'd gotten in trouble at work one time for taking money out of the register. So I mean, my dad had an awareness that there was a deeper problem, but he didn't understand substance use like my mom did. Like he had never been through it himself. And even when he first heard about it, he said, "This is a mental thing. You can just stop." And he never understood that I was like a man possessed, from moment one. But on the other hand, when he called my mom, she was very sympathetic. And essentially my parents came up with two choices for me. They said either today you will go and take your ASVAB and you will enlist in the military as soon as you're able to, a branch of your choice, or you'll go into rehab. And since my mom had worked in the field and she was also in recovery, she reminded me, of that old saying, wherever you go, there you are.
There you'll be. Yeah.
So the idea of me going to the military, she said, "You know what, you're probably going to have just as many problems." So that was when I first started getting serious about my recovery, went into detox treatment, and then meetings after that.
So, along with your prior knowledge of the rooms, and now you're going back into the rooms, did you stay there? And actually, no, let's take a step back from that. Did you buy into the program when you were now the one sitting in the chair, so to speak?
Absolutely. I saw the difference that it made in my mom's life. I had went to so many meetings, and, especially with her sponsee family, I used to be with all of the other kids. I mean, this was a family thing. So when I got there, I truly believe that. But you have to understand too that was the only thing that I knew.
Yeah.
I didn't, and I think that for a long time, the 12 steps were really the only support group that was out there. Yeah. And that's what comes after, people should get used to the drill, right? once you go to rehab, they're speaking about going to a halfway house or transitional living.
Mm-hmm.
For most people, even if they have a home, to get them some more structure and give them some time away, to
Mm-hmm.
going to meetings and to start doing service work. I mean, so like there's been this prescription, this formula that's been kind of there for a long time, and it works for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
And initially, it helped me.
Mm-hmm.
What I can say though, like I wasn't serious.
Yeah. So, okay. So that round didn't work for you. What took you back out, and how did you end up? I mean, we know already that you inherited a large sum of money, but how did you end up using it all? Like, did it start slowly? Did you think, oh, I want all this money, I'm just going to go out for a good time and then I'll be okay? Or what did that look like?
Oh no, no. With the inheritance from my dad, right?
Mm-hmm.
There it's a difficult story to tell. I still have some feelings that are left over from that, both good and bad. That I made it, but that I went through with all this money.
Mm-hmm.
But with that, I was going down the road. I was driving in a 2015 Dodge Charger on my way to get a massage. And I don't remember what I was listening to on the radio or anything like that, but I know about where I was when I had this urge, this drive that said, just get some crack. And, I think that you can either disregard thoughts like that, or you can also embrace them and
Mm-hmm.
foster them. And, very much like some of my other choices, I began to rationalize this in my head. And I said, well, $1,000 wouldn't hurt, 10,000 wouldn't hurt, even 100,000 wouldn't put a dent into my wallet. But what I had was no comprehension, very much like some of the 12-step literature, that
Mm-hmm.
I would never be able to stop until basically the money was gone.
Yeah. Yeah. And what did that look like to you? Was it just all in right away? Was there some resistance at first? Like, was there any thoughts of going back to meetings or, calling a sponsor or anything
Yeah.
like that? Like, what did that feel like in the first, I would say maybe 3 months?
I was really quiet about it at
Yeah.
first. And, the first night I bought $100.
Mm-hmm.
It was really in the afternoon. And by 3 in the morning, I went back and bought another $300. And, I didn't realize how lucky or how unfortunate I was, but that person that I met was the person that ended up supplying me for the better part of this entire journey.
Mm-hmm.
And, so the progression was there very quickly, and I disappeared, right? I was going to meetings, and all of a sudden people aren't hearing from me. And, I think that I had a very painful night at the beginning, where, I was using a lot, and I was so paranoid that I was hiding in, my shower. Would close the shower door because I thought that if the police kicked down the door, at least if the dog came in, it wouldn't be able to bite me. And that night, I called my mom and I said to her, "Look, this is what's going on." And by that point in time, I was in such a delusional state that I thought the police were after me. So I asked her if she would bond me out, and I began looking for help. I called treatments. I called one person in a treatment center in particular. But by that point in time, I was so physically ill. I had a terrible skin condition, and I probably would have needed to be dragged out of there and be put somewhere until my body healed up some.
Mm-hmm.
I did have people from the rooms who came over, but uh, you know, what's very hard, especially for a crack smoker, is where somebody says, "Well, I'm just going to bang on your window,"
Mm-hmm.
to get your attention. I mean, they're feeding into the paranoia. And,
Yeah.
by that point in time, my ankles were 28 inches around. Had obviously, when my sponsor came, everybody there kept saying, go to a meeting. And he was the only one. He said, look, dude, you need to go to a hospital.
Yeah.
And so like that was probably the dawning moment for me when I couldn't put my shoes on anymore at all. So I would just drive around with a pair of I put two pairs of socks on, and I would just go around like that, you know.
Was there ever any
Yeah.
were you using to die? Like, were you wanting to die at that time?
Well, part of the story that I've left out with my family is that I did see uh, another uncle and an aunt died of substance use, right? Whether directly or whether their life was shortened by that, it makes no difference. But there was always this feeling that I had that I may be destined to die just like they did, and there were points of time like that I would pray, I would talk to them, I would have these conversations and let them know that I understood what they had went through, that I'd wish things were different, but that I knew that I was on the way. I mean, when you're at that level, I mean, I wouldn't sleep for 2 weeks. I would pass out. I would eat every third or fourth day. There was nothing left inside. There was only one desire, and that was to get high. So, honestly, I don't know how I made it. And, there was a lot that went on with the thought process. If a miracle went on, it was definitely in that bathroom. I should be dead right now just based on the amount of cocaine that I did.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break here. We're going to hear a word about the University of Saskatchewan, and then we will look at some comments. Hold tight. The School of Public Health at the University of Saskatchewan is now offering a graduate certificate in substance use health and well-being. This is a one-year program that is open to professionals who wish to deepen their overall understanding of substance use. You do not need a prior degree for admittance. On completion of this program, you will take away a developed health intervention to reduce the harms of substance use as they relate to your vocation. To learn more about this program and the application process, go to the link in the show notes. All right, tonight's episode is also brought to you in part by Prairie Harm Reduction and Prairie Sky Recovery Center and Stronger Together Canada, peer-led support groups by Mums Stop the Harm. To learn more about all our sponsors, check out www.hardknockstalks.com. While you're there, check out our Fresh Summer 2023 merch. Pick something out, show your support. Let's see, we've got only a couple of comments here that I want to put on screen. And as it turns out, Mark, you are not the only one who has spent large amounts of money.
Thanks for the comment, Casey. He says, spent $50,000 on fentanyl in 4 months.
And we have a comment.
You're blessed to be alive.
Yes.
Yeah. And we have a comment from Donna.
I wasn't expecting that to make it on screen. My comment was, I went through a large portion of an inheritance on alcohol, then the proceeds from the sale of a house on Fent. Yeah. Dan and I spent I don't know how much money on fentanyl back in the day.
I mean, we were going through $1,000 a day at one point.
Yeah. So yeah.
Let's see here. Oh, we've got a couple more comments coming in.
Matcha Recovery, thank you for the comment, says, love the sincerity, Mark.
Thank you, Adam and CJ. I love both of you.
Welcome to the party, Adam and CJ.
Yes. And Clinical Cognitive says, Mark Guckel, you are a courageous, beautiful soul. Thank you for sharing your story.
And that's Mary. Thank you, Mary. One of my biggest supporters and one of the most inspirational people in my life. And so just interesting, quick story. Mary discovered me on LinkedIn, and she was so inspired by my post that she had magazines made that had all of the articles on LinkedIn in there. Just couldn't be meet a kinder person than Mary.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So speaking of inspiring, let's talk about what got you out of that bathroom and into a safer way to live. Was it like a one pinnacle moment? Was it a thought? Was it an event? Like tell us what happened.
No. Yeah, no. listen, it was really bad. That's just the plain and simple truth. I was doing all sorts of things that I shouldn't be doing to get dope, traveling unsafely, carrying drugs with me, and the amount of cocaine that I was doing was just, it was ridiculous. I think that it would have killed anybody. But I got really tired of the people from the rooms coming to my house that said that they would bang on my windows. Some of them that did. I felt very uncomfortable, and also didn't want to risk going back because I knew I'd be seen as a failure. And really, my relationship with my family wasn't all the best. And I had this inspiring idea. I thought that I might be able to go to South America. And, really, I had this whole thing envisioned, right? I still had a fairly sizable amount of money, but I would live in a thatched hut in a dugout on the Amazon. I'd find like one of these crazy shamans that people had spoken about, and I would be able to do psychedelics. And right when I was down there, there'd be cocaine too. And so I began to make plans, right? I went online.
You had no intention of stopping the cocaine. You were just going to go and do it somewhere else and also do psychedelics.
Absolutely. There was no plan of stopping, because like I knew the old model wouldn't work. And really, I just figured that I would end up dead eventually. It was some of the stuff that I had go on, especially like with my heartbeat, I over 200, like a lot,
wow.
So
that's
yeah.
pumping.
So, I mean, and that was, yeah. So you wonder how the human body can deal with that. But what I found was a podcast. I found a podcast where, first off, the host had a heroin problem, and he was able to overcome that with the help of ayahuasca. But the video that really caught me was an interview with Gabor Mate. So like, I didn't know who he was. It was the first time that I had heard his name. But he is a Hungarian Canadian addiction doctor, and a lot of his writings are on how our past experiences, and then the trauma that keeps building up on top of that, is what leads us to use. And so, like, that was new to me. He also spoke about using ayahuasca to help people to overcome that trauma, to help them to overcome the root causes of their addiction. And so, like, for me, for a person that was dying, I had seen an inspiring story about somebody that had made it. And then I had heard from, what I didn't know was from like the source of all of this information himself, how this worked. And so, like, I was all about it from the beginning. Like, what I didn't understand was how psychedelics medicines worked. Maybe mistakenly, I thought I was going to get high and be able to stop. And that was like this kind of goal that I had in my head. But I ended up smoking for many months, just watching videos in this podcast and watching other videos about psychedelic medicines. I began to do research at that time into retreat centers to go to. And I paid for retreats. I spoke to people on the phone and made a commitment to go, but I was too physically ill and perhaps unwilling or unable to stop. Yeah. And I could never make it happen.
So tell us about how you first were introduced to psychedelic medicines then. Like, I'm interested to know how you went from, being completely recluse, locked in a room for 2 years. I mean, certainly there was one day where you walked out and you didn't come back. I want to hear about that.
Yeah. Well, at the end, I kept saying, as the money dwindled, I said, I'll stop. And I took a cab ride, and I mistakenly left my debit card in the cab. And when I woke up in the morning, all my money was gone. And the guy in the cab, the cab driver, had used all the money in my account. And I think that when I hit that moment, like, I was like, okay, I really need to do something now, because in the past, When I ran out of money, I would usually do something like shoplift to get the money. And I realized at that point in time, like, if I'm going to do it, it has to be now. Yeah. And so like that was really the tipping point.
Mm-hmm. And what did it look like? You said, you're going to do it. I'm going to do it now. What was it?
Oh, well, I had made plans while I was in the bathroom to turn to 2 different medicines. One was ibogaine. The second one was ayahuasca. For those that don't know about ibogaine, it's one alkaloid. So it's like caffeine, it's like morphine, or it's like nicotine. And it's off of the tabernath iboga plant, which it grows in Africa. It's used traditionally by the Bwiti people. And over the recent years, we've discovered it has these incredible anti-addictive properties that are mostly seen with people with opiate use disorder, right? So what ibogaine does is it interrupts the addiction, and it helps to bring people's body and their mind back to the pre-addictive state. So I was, I thought that was the first thing that I should do. And after that, I said to myself that I would probably need more help. So I thought that ayahuasca was part of the plan. And ayahuasca, is a little, go ahead.
Tell us about, like, I'm interested to know your experiences, and the reason, well, I'm always interested to know about like these psychedelic plant medicines, like how they work for the person. Often we talk about them in a clinical capacity, and we don't really talk about the spiritual experience, right? And the reason that I'm particularly interested this time around is because I myself am going on a psychedelic medicine journey this week. I'm doing it. I'm 6.5 years into my recovery now. And you know what? I've heard too many good things from solid people to not explore this. So help us understand. The first time that you went into it, you took the medicine. Was it ceremony? What did it feel like? What did you learn?
No. The first thing that I did was ibogaine. And it wasn't done in a ceremonial sense. It would have been done more in the lines of a psychotherapeutic sense. I was doing it. I did it with a practitioner in a hotel room in Gainesville, Florida. The gentleman had been doing it for working with people for close to 28 years, and I believe very strongly in what he said. And the dose with ibogaine, they give you usually 2 different types of doses. You get a psycho-spiritual dose, which is smaller, and it's more meant for the spiritual experience. Or you can take a flood or a detox dose, which is the one that has more of the physical effects that people are looking for with opiate use disorder. So I received the psycho-spiritual dose. And when I got it, and I want to say this as real as I can. The practitioner, to be safe, they give you 1 pill at a time. And then they ask you, do you feel this? Do you feel this? Do you feel this? And when they sense that you get enough, that's it. And his sense, wasn't where I needed to be. And I knew that kind of from the beginning, because I did say, look, I need some more. But what you have to respect is, somebody been doing it for a while and they're trying to keep you safe. And so, right when I ended up going into this journey, it was like a dream state. Literally, there were parts of it that I don't remember, where I closed my eyes and I was absolutely somewhere else.
Okay. What was it like coming out of it? Did you feel like a new man? Did you have a new lens on reality? And what kind of work did you do after?
I woke up and I was really hungry. And that was the first thing that I did. Rather than breaking fast with any of the fruit that we had there, I went to a Waffle House on the campus of it was right outside the campus of the University of Florida, and ate egg and cheese sandwiches. And so if you're asking what I did afterward, that was the first thing that I did, but I did feel different. I felt as though there was hope. I didn't feel as though that I was going to go back to using cocaine. And for several days afterward, I would hear a voice, and it would tell me to do kind, positive things for other people. For instance, I was in the hotel and I was walking by a lady, and it said, ask her how her day's going and pick up her bags. And so I kind of felt like it was the voice of a boosted conscience, this connection with the plant spirit that was giving me guidance on how to be a better person.
Mm-hmm. That's really interesting. How long was it before you came to want to do more? I mean, you said that you moved on to ayahuasca. So tell us about that.
Yeah,
And like I'm interested to know like what the difference was for you between the ibogaine experience and the ayahuasca experience.
Night and day. It's like total night and day, because the ibogaine was and see, what happens after an experience is you go through a period of what's called integration, which is where you look at what went on while you were in this state of not ordinary consciousness. Mm-hmm. You try to make sense of it, relate it to your own life, and incorporate it. And, it took me a long time to integrate what happened there, to try to really sort out the deeper meaning. And with ibogaine, all I was given was hope and just this very brief introduction that things could be different and that ibogaine could be a part of that. Mm-hmm. And it also gave me the chance to share the message. However, with ayahuasca, I'd already made the plans. I made plans to sit with ayahuasca before I did the ibogaine. We just had to wait. There's so much different chemicals that are in your body that affect the serotonin that you want to try to space out the time between the sessions. Mm-hmm. And so I waited about 10 days and then turned to ayahuasca.
Mm-hmm. Right now I'm on a cleanse, so to speak, because I'm journeying on Tuesday, right? And so I'm off sugar, I'm off salt, I'm off, all these things. What was that like for you? Were you asked to do the same thing?
Yeah. So, well, let me ask you a question. So, are you getting ready to drink ayahuasca?
No, psilocybin.
Oh, okay. Well, a lot of the times, there's not the deep intention setting with psilocybin that there is with ayahuasca. But with ayahuasca, yahe, or daime, which are all names for the same thing, they do have what's called a dieta. And a dieta is where you're asked to make changes to your diet, just like you spoke about, where you're trying to take out, say, fermented foods, so that they don't interfere with the medicine of being absorbed into your body. You begin to take out meats. You abstain from sexual contact, from masturbation. I mean, there are a lot of things that you do while you're developing intention, and it works as like almost in symbiosis with the medicine. It potentiates it.
Yeah, and so tell us then. Tell us about the ayahuasca experience. Maybe your experiences with the medicine are different now than they were your very first time. But like I'm really interested, and I'm sure other people are too, because I mean there's a lot of people that are struggling with the challenges that you've had in your past. So tell us about that experience, and tell us how you came out the other side. Like, what was it like? What changed? How was integration?
Yeah, well, the ayahuasca really opened my eyes, and it's very difficult to try to describe this to people that haven't done it. But you have these almost 30 minutes to 45 minutes after drinking the ayahuasca, which is, by the way, it's like a coffee or a very thick tea. It has a very acrid smell, and sometimes it can be very difficult to drink just because of the taste and the way that it sits in your stomach. But it's crucial that you do. Like, you have to really concentrate on it. And some of the things that I began to work on right away, like relating to my dad's death. When my dad died, I was in prison. I was in prison on an old warrant, something that I had no business in even being locked up for. It just randomly popped out of nowhere. So there was a lot of guilt that I wasn't there for him to help him before he died. right? There was no goodbye. There was no final conversations. There was definitely no discussion about the money. And, when I was in prison the last time, I never got a letter from him. So
Mm-hmm.
I knew that there were these harbored feelings, and it's very difficult. When somebody's alive, there's a chance to talk stuff out, to be able to make a living amends by living the right way, by being able to demonstrate to them, hey, we can do things differently and better. But with that, there was none. And so a lot of these psychedelic medicines, especially like ayahuasca, provide this connection with something that's out there that, who knows what it is, right? I've spoken to dead uncles, both on my mom's side and on my dad's side. And while I know that that's hard for some people to comprehend, that's the sort of experience that you go through in an ayahuasca ceremony. It was almost like my dad was there at points of time, letting me know that things were okay,
So,
and forgiving me.
Did you believe, like, do you believe that you were actually in contact with the spirits of your family members, or do you think this was like a manifestation of your mind trying to make sense of itself?
Yeah, well, that's a really hard call, because you want to say, well, um, this is that all this is the ayahuasca experience, but where later on when I got into psilocybin, I was walking one day and I got up and just walked around the room, and my left hand began to tremble, and I couldn't figure out why it was trembling. And I heard a voice say, "We all have that. Don't worry about it." And I didn't think all that much about it, but it felt as though it was associated with my uncle on my dad's side. And I asked my mom about it, and we have a congenital hand tremor that comes in both of our hands. My dad had it really bad before he died, but my uncle struggled with it, my grandmother, and like these were some things that I didn't know. So I mean, there's something that's there that really makes you think a little bit, and it's in the end, it really doesn't make a difference. It changed my life. It was the spiritual experience I was looking for.
So you heard these voices like after your experience, after your journey was done, or this was during your experience?
No. This is while deeply in the medicine.
Okay.
These are things that, this isn't something that happens all the time, but these psychedelics, do all sorts, they have all sorts of different effects. And ayahuasca is different than the rest of them because rather than just being a classic psychedelic, it has dissociative effects too. It does all sorts of different things. It acts like almost every psychedelic that's out there in one way. It's, there's a reason why it's one of the master healers.
Let's look at a couple comments here.
Lillian Brasida says, I am a mom of an addict and went on an iboga retreat, and the medicine extended to my son. Ayahuasca showed me visions of my son. I did it to work on myself, to assist my son. Great comment. Thank you, Liliana.
Powerful. Thank you for the hard work that you're doing for your family. Just like there can be generational trauma, there can be generational healing. So thank you for your work, and thank you for sharing your experience.
And Twinkle.
Twinkle says, I had looked into ayahuasca many years ago for spiritual reasons, but because of the effects, I decided not to pursue. A bad trip would terrify me.
And I want to touch just briefly on that because the practitioner that I'm working with, when we last consulted, she said very, very strongly, there's no such thing as a bad trip. And she went into it a little deeper saying, like there are things that we will see that we may not like, that may be hard for us to see, may be hard for us to feel and experience, but those are so important and it's not bad, it's healing. So I don't know if you got anything to add to that, Mark.
Agreed. I'm, your practitioner is completely right. And
Mm-hmm.
I prefer not to call them a bad experience,
Mm-hmm.
but more of a challenging one. Because what we find is that these medicines meet us right where we're at. They'll bring out our deepest fear. They may help us to stop using drugs, but they will also reveal every other little nook and cranny that we have to work on.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the times that isn't done in a pleasant way. The way that it happens, it can be very, very, very painful. And I've had experiences where I thought that I was playing out going crazy. But what I found at the end was it's the hard times, it's the challenging ones that have made me grow as a human being the most. So I hope that people are able to reframe that from being a bad experience or, into just the experience that you need. And if you have the right guide there, you should be in good shape. That's why they have trained people there with you. They'll help you through that.
Twinkle goes on to say, thank you, Dan. Apologies, my verbiage is part of my naivety. And Twinkle, I did not mean for my verbiage to sound like it was an attack on you. So I'm sorry if that if it came across that way. It certainly was not my intention. So, Mark,
verbiage is perfect.
Yeah, and also very important. Like really, when we're communicating, it's important that our verbiage evolves with the conversation. So we're all learning here, and that's go ahead.
No, if you hit on that too, I still hear people using the word trip. And trip really connotates that recreational use. It connotates Albert Hoffman's ride on a bicycle going home when he first did LSD. So I suggest to people that we use journey, or that we say sit with the medicine, or that we try to find better ways to recognize them as healing catalysts. Because the language that we use, especially with psychedelics, is especially important, because we're trying to differentiate that recreational from this mindful, intentional use in safe settings.
And and we spoke a little before the show about language as well, because I had something in my opening script, and you're like, well, can we talk about that? And when we're talking about referring to it, making very sure that we refer to this as medicine as often as possible, to reiterate the fact that we are on a healing journey. This is not like I'm not packing up my glow sticks and my candy bracelets on Tuesday. You know what I mean? I I don't know what's going to be. Maybe there will be some there. I have no idea, but I don't think so. Yeah.
Well, that was one of the issues that I had when I was in the bathroom getting high when I tried to consider this. Right, was there were some other videos that actually spoke about this that were really helpful to me, because for so long I went to NA. Right, I was told that any mood or mind altering substance, other than coffee and cigarettes, of
apparently
course,
those are okay. Yes.
And in copious amounts.
Yeah.
And monsters, you get it, but it was reinforced that all those things were bad for me. So I had to really reframe these. And at that point in time, there wasn't as much scientific evidence. So it was a lot of really hard, challenging go. And I had to say, you know what? I just want to stay alive. It doesn't make a difference if I'm clean, if I'm sober. I just want to live to fight another day.
Yeah.
Well,
and I've had some people, like I spoke a little bit about what I'm intending to do on Facebook a couple of days ago. I said I'm on a cleanse. I'm going to do ceremony, and people asked, like, well, what kind of ceremony? And I told them, and I did get some people being like, well, aren't you a program guy? Like, are you not a program guy anymore? And I'm like, yeah, well, and then I've got other people like concerned, like, oh, I hope you make it back type thing, making those kind of comments, but I'm finding that the people who are closest to me, like my family and everyone around me, they're very supportive, and like they know very intimately my history, right? So all the people that know me, they're happy that I'm doing it with a practitioner. They're happy that I'm doing it, in a very ceremonial and intentional way. Right. But nobody's saying, Dan, please don't do this. And I love that. Like, I love that.
I'd just like to add that we had the pleasure of meeting Onyx actually a few months ago,
Mm-hmm.
and just a wonderful, wonderful human being. I entrust her implicitly with Dan's journey, and I'm really supportive of the decision, and I'm so relieved that he's got to connect with somebody that we have a deeper connection with. So there's just that extra added layer of trust and respect for everything
Mm-hmm.
that's about to take place.
And I just found out that she has a
You're,
rad Harley too,
yeah.
so so that kicks her
Well,
up another notch.
I was going to say, don't ride that on those mushrooms. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it sounds like like you're in good hands. And from everything that you said, I hope that it's as good of a journey as you'd like.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that it brings you everything that you're hoping for, and that if it doesn't bring you the answers, that at least gives you some better questions to work with for next time.
Mm-hmm. I'll go in there, and the plant will say, "Dan, go to a meeting." Like, no. Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? But so speaking about that, right? And I didn't
Mm-hmm.
know if you were aware of this, but there is a 12-step fellowship that is based around psychedelics and recovery, and that's what it's called. So if people have the chance, go to psychedelicsinrecovery.org. But they're a 12-step fellowship. They have, I believe that it's 8 in-person meetings and I think 23, 25 meetings every week. And, hey, look, for people that don't have experience, that want to learn something new, or that are in going to a 12-step meeting and just want to be able to hear what other people are saying, it's a chance. It's a chance to learn more, and it's a good, valuable resource that's there for everybody, and it's free.
Mm-hmm. Oh, we've got someone in the chat saying, Dan, we'll need an episode on your experience, and you better believe that there will be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope you bring Onyx on.
Yeah, well, that's the intention. She said she would be happy to come on because she's been on before, right? She was on some time ago now, and we were just talking about her journey. Like, we weren't really talking too much about clinical things, but yeah, you can go back and find it if you want. It's on the YouTube channel. I'm pretty sure it says Onyx in the comment section, or I mean in the title. So, but anyways, so tell us what brought you into doing this with other people now, because like you're working with psychedelic medicines with other people now, correct?
Yeah, no. Well, no, I'm not. To be able to do that, it requires a lot of training. With ayahuasca, people can train for their entire lifetime. Even with mushrooms, people need a lot of hands-on experience. And it's not just as simple as eating the mushrooms and saying, well, the mushrooms told me that I can hold ceremony now. That's what does everybody a disservice. I think everybody thinks the first time or even the second time that they use that they can be a shaman. And while true, it takes a lot of work to be able to get into a position where you can help folks. I am an educator. I spoke this last year at the Multiple Pathways Recovery Conference. I also spoke for the Connecticut Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services, having the same sort of conversation. I'm also a paralegal. I work with practitioners to establish church structures so that they can serve the medicines without issue. And in addition to that, from time to time, I help people with coaching. But all the medicine work that I do now is it's a little bit different, right? I live in Florida. And after it rains, you can find mushrooms that grow naturally here.
Oh, wow.
So, all the medicine that I get, I find myself, I dry, I pray to it, and then I, come up with my intention and sit with it. Just in the middle of a microdosing, I'm trying a microdosing regimen for the first time.
Yeah.
I'm only going to try it for a short period of time, but I just wanted to see does this do anything? Is there anything to it?
It's so because like I have some influencer friends, and one of them actually is his name is Quinn LaPere. He's on Facebook, and he's gained a massive following, and it's because of his transparency in his own journey, right? And he talks a lot about mushrooms. I think he even sells kits, and like, he talks about microdosing in a way like how it actually can rewire the synapses in your brain. Like it can it can help you change your brain in like a physical capacity. Like, is there any truth to that?
Yeah, I've heard a lot about that, and I do think that there's truth to it. They've shown that psilocybin has helped to rebuild neural networks. So one of the things that it's really good for is when people are you just speaking about microdosing or a larger
Yeah.
dose?
Well, for the purpose of this conversation, let's talk about microdosing.
Yeah, for my probably a little bit less than a doing a macro dose.
Okay.
But people have found it to be very helpful with a number of different ailments, from headaches to Parkinson's, to just anxiety and depression.
Mm-hmm. Now, is this like an ongoing maintenance type program that some people go on? Like they always like they take their mushrooms every day type thing, or is this something that is supposed to be like periodically done?
Well, I would hope that people would recognize the difference between these being like mat, because they're really not a replacement for anything. However, there are some people that have been very successful titrating off of their antidepressants and then using psilocybin in lieu of that. Being guided and under the care of a medical professional. But there are also regimens with this. Like there are a bunch of different ones where they say 1 day on, 1 day off, or 1 day on, 2 days off. So, there are particular ways of doing this. And I think that people really need to experiment to be able to find out what works for them, whether that is microdosing regularly, whether it's sitting with a larger dose once in a while.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, I know that there's a lot more that we didn't talk about, but it kind of looks like we're going to have to bring you back because we're coming to the end. Is there anything that you'd like to say before we let you go tonight?
No, I'm just, I think the biggest thing, I appreciate your honesty, your courage to come onto a national podcast and to say that you were going to sit with psilocybin, because I think a lot of people respect you. I know from the content that I've looked at, you help and you influence a lot of people. So your word, your experience, and even, just the way you described it, ceremonial use, and I'm doing this cleansing, I have this commitment to that. I think that you're helping a lot of people that way. So the biggest thing for me was to be able to hear that, and also to volunteer. Like if you need me to help you to integrate afterward or to be supportive, I'd like to be there for you.
Cool, man. Well, I'll let you know. I'll let you know how it goes. I'll report back. How does that sound?
That sounds great. You've got my email address now.
Awesome. Where can people find you?
My website's finally up. It's www.entheo, ENTHEO, recovery.com. There's about 60% of it up.
Yeah,
sure.
Can you repeat that again?
I'm sorry. It's ENTHEO, and then recovery, all one word. www.entheorecovery.com. So, and the reason for the name, aside from psychedelic medicines, they also have other names, and one of those is called an entheogen. An entheogen is a substance that helps you to connect with the divine within. And so I use that first part to make it entheo recovery because I think it's a good fit. I think that a lot of people that are struggling with substance use and mental health will find some relief in psychedelics. Now, they're not for everybody, but for the people who they're for, they will definitely know.
Awesome. Okay, if you're getting that, I think that's it. If you got something out of tonight's show, please give it a like. And if you're not already subscribed, please hit that button and turn on notifications so you don't miss a thing. Mark, take care of yourself, my friend. And here's a sneak peek at next week's guest. Good night.
I drank and drove New Year's Eve of 2003 and killed 2 people, severely injured another. And 3 days later, I'm in my cell, and I get a newspaper underneath my door, and I start to read this article. And for the first time in days, my faceless victims became people. And these people had a story. They were recovering addicts who had turned their lives around and were now helping other people get clean and sober. And at the end of that article, that columnist has said, quote, perhaps the person they will have ended up helping the most is the man who's charged with killing them.